Hello. Hi. This is like not my normal content subject matter or whatever, but you know what? It is an interesting historical series of events that do include a lot of things that are like definitely right in my wheelhouse. So let's talk about it. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you about controversial weirdo John C. Lilly. Let's get into it. So, I imagine most people spent like the bulk of the 1950s just like being racist and getting lead poisoning and inspiring future aesthetic choices for diner owners in the 1980s. I don't fucking know. I wasn't there. But one man, John C. Lilly, spent his 1950s very differently than other people, and he just kind of just did a lot of acid and followed around dolphins and studied their communication habits because he, unlike most people of this time, thought that dolphins were like sentient creatures that that were just as smart as people essentially. Yeah, and like most people at the time, they thought they were just like, hey, these are inconvenient, screamy fish that are getting in the way of my tuna. So fuck the dolphins. But yeah, John C. Lilly did not feel that way, followed the Dolphins, did a lot of acid, and finally in 1961 he published his book Man and Dolphin. So his book was like a big hit and people just like fell in love with dolphins. And he actually was an advisor for the show Flipper, that started in 1963. Again, I was not there, but apparently Flipper was a big deal. Um, Another important thing that was happening around this point in time is that people were very invested in defeating communism by going to the moon and all of that, which really I don't know how those two things connect, but people were into space. So, being the well-connected sciencey dolphin guy that John C. Lilly has created, like his name being, he somehow manages to secure the funding from NASA to open himself a facility in the US Virgin Islands where he would be figuring out how to communicate with dolphins. Because, in theory, if you can learn how to talk to dolphins, you can also learn how to talk to aliens. And this is where Margaret Howe enters the story. And I'm not really sure if she is the story's villain or victim or whatever, but you know what? She doesn't leave the story looking good. But at the beginning of all of this, she is tasked with teaching these dolphins how to speak English, which I think is just like a very weird approach because dolphins do not have like vocal cords and mouths like us. And like I don't know if you've noticed, but like dolphin noises sound nothing like people noises. So like why try to teach the dolphins how to speak English instead of just like figuring out what kind of things the dolphins are already saying while they're making dolphin noises? I don't know. Because you know what? This seems like the hardest possible approach because essentially the dolphins would be making noises out of their blowholes. And that's absolutely what happened. Here is a little audio clip right here of a dolphin speaking through its blowhole.
Hello.
Which honestly is very impressive because that would be like asking me or you to talk through our buttholes. Dolphins, two female and one male, but quickly the male dolphin became like the most promising dolphin out of this group. But the problem was he was like a teenage boy and he was super duper horny. And he would get really frustrated by these lessons and talking out of his butthole and all of that. And to relieve some of the pressure off of this dolphin, whose name was Peter, they would like pause the lessons and move him into the female dolphin enclosure to get some relief. Peter quickly noticed that, hey, I really I really just am not into learning how to talk out of my blowhole, and I would rather, fuck other dolphins. And so he needed more and more breaks. And these breaks are like very inconvenient. And they're trying to get shit done quickly because, I mean, you got to produce results pretty quick if you're getting funding from NASA and to do something as ridiculous as this. So they need results. So Margaret decides that, hey, instead of moving this dolphin every time its stick gets hard, I'm going to give the dolphin hand jobs. And that way we can get back to our lesson quicker, which was a choice for sure. And not one that I would consider making, you know. But hey, I wasn't there. But I would like to imagine that I definitely would not make that leap. Because, like, in one clip that I found, she was describing as using both her hands and feet, which makes me wonder, like, exactly how big a dolphin dick is and why you're incorporating your feet and your hands. Like, a lot of questions. And you know what? Google gave me answers. And hopefully, like, I'm not on some kind of government watch list for Googling the shape and size of a dolphin penis, but apparently. But, okay, it features a tapered cone-like tip. Because it is prehensile, the male can swivel, extend, grasp, and the female during mating to ensure a stable connection underwater. And it's hidden in a slit. And it says that the size scales closely with the size of the species and its mating system. And it says that the sluttier that a male dolphin is, the larger that his penis will be. So I still have questions, but also now I'm imagining, they're saying it's like a prehensile something. So I'm imagining that it has like the dexterity of a hand. And that just kind of makes it even a little bit more disturbing to have it shaking your hand back. Gross. In the name of death, like justifying the weird ass experiment that they were doing, they really did need to produce results quicker. So Margaret ends up moving herself into Peter's dolphin enclosure, and she had like brought a bed and like put the bed in a part of the enclosure that was like shin high water, and like really just devoted herself to dolphin hand jobs full time. And her and Peter developed like what she describes as like an intense emotional bond and connection, as one does when moving into somebody's house and giving them hand jobs all the time. They're getting desperate, and they're really ramping up like the crazy factor here, because at one point they start giving the dolphin acid because John C. Lilly was convinced that when he did acid that he could communicate telepathically with these dolphins. So how about we try in reverse and just give the dolphins acid and see if they could telepathically communicate with us. Margaret did not like this. She did not like Peter being drugged because she cared about him or whatever. But obviously this did not work. And soon after, like, the whole entire experiment was shut down because predictably none of this worked. So in 1966, NASA and even Carl Sagan, his fucking self, okay, came in, and they're like, what the fuck? Neither your drug or your language research has literally resulted in anything. And why the fuck would you try to teach a dolphin how to speak English rather than figure out the dolphin language? And also, why the hand jobs? That's very weird. So it ended as a gigantic failure and very embarrassing for John C. Lilly. And then it got worse because Hustler magazine got a hold of this story of some woman giving a dolphin hand jobs for like a long time and moving in with this dolphin and being in love with the dolphin. And of course, Hustler did go ahead and sensationalize this to the max. So this is where I feel bad for Margaret C. Howe, but it's like at the same time, it's like she was kind of into bestiality, and that's not good. So I feel bad that everybody, came to know her as the dolphin fucker, but at the same time, you're a dolphin fucker. Like, you moved in and that dolphin made you his bitch. And also, I would like to give Peter the Dolphin credit because it's like he seemed to catch on very quick and learn how to manipulate her to get more hand jobs out of her. Like he really was a pioneer in perverted dolphin culture, I guess. But yeah, also another thing that I wonder about Peter is if hand jobs were something that had a very special appeal to him because he did not have hands. I do know that dolphins in the wild have been documented using decapitated fish as like fleshlights. So hands versus decapitated fish, I'm sure was definitely an upgrade. But was it a kink? He would have bragged to other dolphins about, all of these exploits and manipulating some human lady into giving him hand jobs all day. But he was moved to another facility in Miami where he was kept in near isolation. But like, sadly, not for long because like dolphins, unlike people, like they have to make a conscious decision to breathe. Like when they sleep, they only actually rest half of their brain at a time because one half needs to stay on to tell them to continue breathing. So after Peter the Dolphin was separated from Handjob Lady and all of the benefits that came along with it, like this dolphin reached astonishing heights in terms of dolphin success. And then he was left alone in an aquarium in Miami where he proceeded to commit suicide by swimming to the bottom of his tank and choosing not to breathe because he had it all. And now, what the fuck? So, in the aftermath of all of this, Margaret Howe would really go on to be known for nothing else other than being a dolphin fucker. And John C. Lilly would go on to invent the sensory deprivation tank, which means that the story has like really no historical significance in really helping anything. But it was interesting. And also, I have questions like, she was a dolphin fucker, but would you consider her a dolphin hooker? Since it was her job to essentially, I mean, she kind of made it her job. I mean, it wasn't in the description of the job, I'm sure, like up front, but choices were definitely made. But in the end of this, and in addition to all of the embarrassment that comes along with being known as a dolphin fucker, she actually ended up not even getting paid for any of this. So was she a dolphin hooker? I would like to imagine kind of yes. Kind of yes. And also, you really can't move past being one. Like, like I think that, a lot of like sex workers or hookers or whatever, you could definitely make a life for yourself outside of just being a prostitute, but not when you're like a dolphin hooker. That's just kind of where you're stuck forever. But anyways, yeah, this was the story of like John C. Lilly and the Dolphin House experiment. So okay, so this was the first video that I made in a series of videos that I had actually promised a long time ago to you guys about like hoes of historical significance. So yeah, let me know if I should keep on going. I was thinking about doing Mata Hari, and also I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but like there was also an interesting pirate hooker lady. So yeah, if you're not already, like, subscribe, do the things, and don't give dolphin hand jobs. And unless the dolphin is really convincing, then I don't know, maybe you should. Couldn't be me. Bye.